So this speaker series centers environmental justice, and we have an outstanding lineup of environmentalists and sustainability professionals throughout this fall semester. And I want to start today with a land acknowledgement. So I'm in Monterey County, and here for me, we are meeting physically in the indigenous tribal area of the Chasta, today known as the city of Monterey, California. Ohlone and Costanon Esselen Nation tribal members are known as Esselen Carmeleno, Monterey Band, Rumsen, Shalon, Ohlone, and Costanon, the indigenous people of Monterey County. All enrolled tribal members' ancestors are identified to San Carlos Borromeo de Carmelo Mission and Nuestra Senora de la Soledad Mission original records. We acknowledge the tribal government and respect their spiritual roles today and their cultural and heritage beliefs that are important to the living Ohlone, Castanon, Esselen Nation people. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce the Honorable Ron Goode, the tribal chairman of the North Fork Mono tribe. Mr. Goode has dedicated much of his life to service and community. He is a veteran of the United States Army, a life member of the Sierra Mono Museum, and member of the United States Judo Federation. Ron holds a 6th-degree black belt in judo and still enjoys teaching the practice. He is also a retired community college professor in ethnic studies. Ron was inducted into the Clovis Hall of Fame for his work in education and community service in 2002. In 2006, he was selected as California Indian Education Teacher of the Year, and in 2006 and 2007, Mr. Goode was nominated for the Who's Who of America's Teachers. Mr. Goode is a published author, an ethnobotany book on native plants and resources called Cultural Traditions Endangered, published in 1992. And then in 2017 and 2018, Ron was the coordinating lead author for the Tribal Indigenous Communities Climate Change Assessment as a new report of the California 4th Climate Change Assessment. Even more topical now. Mr. Goode and his tribal and ecological team have been conducting cultural burns with Sequoia Park, Bass Lake Ranger District, Sierra National Forest, Cold Springs Rancheria, private and tribal lands in Mariposa, and with the Mariposa Miwok tribe. Some Middlebury students have even had the opportunity to work with Ron. And so college, Ron then takes his practical work and presents it at universities like this, through colleges and seminars, webinars, and now via Zoom and other internet venues. Ron's journal writings and webinar presentations have garnered worldwide attention, which is kind of what we're seeing right now. So I'll pass this over to Ron for us to listen to his presentation.
What do I need to do? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I need to make you co-host so you can share yours.
We're going to show the video first.
Would you like the video first? Sure, let me
Yeah.
cue that up. Yeah. Okay, just a moment.
So the upcoming video is from one of our Middlebury students. First of all, Manahu, and means hello in our language. I'm Mono, and we're here on Miwok area. So what we're doing is taking care of the resources that are used culturally by the tribes. We're also sitting on a 40-acre archaeological cultural site. Tribal people came from Yosemite, Mid-Pines, Mariposa, Bootjack, Ahwahnee, Corsco, Oakhurst, North Fork, Auberry, Toll House, Clovis, and they came to gather sticks for basketry, berries for food. There's medicine plants here of all different kinds. So here in this area, I have a cultural burn permit in which from January 1 to June 1, I can burn any day I want, even when it's a non-burn day, except for extreme non-burn days. And if it's an extreme non-burn day, I'm not burning either. So that, though, is important because I have, like today, is a setup with 3 different colleges and 4 or 5 different tribes and some agency folks have already been here today and still are from the governor's office. And so that's important for us to be able to do what we need to do and help people be a part of it so that they have a better understanding.
I'm here to learn about the cultural practices to help preserve our forests by taking care of it rather than just letting, I guess, nature take its toll.
And why is this important to you?
It's important because there's been a lot of, nature is really important to me, and I like to see what are ways that I can do to better work with nature that are sustainable.
Okay. Hi, my name is Stephanie Beard. I am a graduate student at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies. I study international environmental policy and public administration. I am out here today at the Cultural Burn with Ron Goode, North Fork Mono Tribe, and a bunch of other students and agencies out here today. And what we are doing is we are gardening in a forest, really. We are cultivating new growth through a traditional method that is overseen by Ron Goode, Tribal Chair, North Fork Mono Tribe.
The important part of what we're trying to do is to change policies that have been here for 120 years, including fire suppression. That fire should be something that is, from the native point of view, it's healthy. It's necessary. It's a tool for us to revitalize the land. Okay. Yeah, fire's importance to the natural ecosystem is what we have today. We're experiencing throughout California raging wildfires that are burning 150,000, 250,000 acres because the land has not been being cared for in a proper manner.
When we see these extreme fires, that's when it's tipped the scale out of balance a little bit. And that's largely because fire was taken off the land through fire suppression policies for a very long time. And Native peoples were not allowed to put fire on the land as they had previously done for thousands and thousands of years.
And so when they lived on the land, they took care of it. And unfortunately, time has slipped away, so you have a lot of downed trees, a lot of drought-stricken trees. And when they lived out here, they needed it for wood. And so everything was always cleaned up, and it was really park-like. And so we've been creating this, emulating this park-like look by taking care of the bushes. And when we burn, we're doing what we call a cultural burn. And the idea of that is to restore life, bring it back to life. Are we back? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we're back.
Okay. So, um, basically, I have a very large team, and I really don't have everybody on my list, but the folks that I'm sharing with you here are some of my friends and family, and that we have been working with for a while, many years actually, and so they're not always with me every project, but they we're there. We're part of the team when I need them. So trying to reach down into the younger pool, and my goal is to try to work with, especially college level students and grads, and even professors, and trying to get everybody to begin to see what we need to do on the land. As I've said before to many interviews, is that change is not going to happen overnight. Change is not going to happen right now, but change is in the process, and that's what's important. And change is going to be made by these younger folks that move up. And I was on several good conversations already this morning and yesterday. And what I'm seeing from young folks is they're not necessarily moving into the agency spots as they are going ahead and creating and recreating their own avenues, and putting together their own organizations or joining other organizations. So it's a pretty good youth movement, is what I'm trying to point out, and that youth movement will uh, become, like a tsunami. It's coming, and it will overtake. Right now, where we are with agencies, is we're basically run by the old crowd. And while the old crowd understands the need for change, it's pretty hard for them to switch off what they've been doing, all this time. So little by little, we move forward and make this change. I wanted to touch bases a little bit as my program talked about cultural spirituality, and I've been doing a lot of writing, especially during the pandemic, and really looking at what is fire. I'm looking at the land, the elements, water, fire, and trying to find um, an avenue that people can understand. And for me, what's out here on the land is what I call a community. A community because everything depends upon itself, and each resource. A flower depends on the bee and the birds and the butterflies. Um, different sources of plants have to have water at certain levels in order for them to survive. What we're doing out there on the land is opening up uh, a meadow, a watershed, and restoration areas, bringing them back to life. But when we do that, we're also allowing birds to bring in new seed, animals to bring in new seed, um, and all of a sudden, what we haven't seen there before is showing up. And so, I use this crazy concept: you build it, and they will come. We do everywhere I go. I don't care if I'm burning on one land or restoring a meadow or restoring a watershed. I make all of my team record every species they find, every flower, every shrub, every spider, every butterfly, every dragonfly, every bee, um, every bear, every deer. It's important that we know who is on the land, that we know who's coming to the land. Whose home is this? Whose home is this that we're burning? When it comes to the spirituality of the land, um, when I go out on a piece on a land, we always hold a ceremony. We pray, we bless, we sing, we offer, we talk, because the spirits are out there on the land and they're listening. And they're listening. They want to hear what it is we're talking about. And it's not about they want to hear what we got to say. They want to know if we know what we're talking about. Why are we out here? What are we doing here? And when they're okay with that, then they'll work with us. Sometimes we see them, when you're here and you look at this, in many cultures they say, don't look at the spirits, don't talk about the spirits. But I think, in a sense, you need to look at this. You need to see this Indian. You need to see him holding this rattlesnake. Look up on top. Look what he's holding. Every fire, I don't care if it's the creek fire, fires down south, they were showing, fire nados, and look like tornadoes. We have the same thing when we burn. We have a NATO come right up out of a bush and walk to 2 or 3 other bushes. It's like, hello, hi there. These things, you got to be prepared for them. You got to be prepared that you're burning, where the spirits and the people, the ancestors, have been here on this land for thousands of years, and they lived here. This is their ground, and all of a sudden you're coming back to do what they did for thousands of years that we haven't done for the last 120 years. So that's a part of understanding the spirituality and the spirits of the land. Moving a little bit more into the spirituality of our culture is every resource has a name. Every resource has a purpose. And so here is a manzanita that we've restored. And if you see the curling bark that's on this manzanita, that we take that and we bag it and we keep it, because over here by the rock pile is a big patch of poison oak. If I get into that poison oak, I'm going to need the bark from this manzanita to take care of it. and it will take care of it immediately. If I start itching today and I use the bark, tomorrow I'm fine. And so that's just one purpose this manzanita has. He's our friend, he's our cousin, he's our relative. And so our Indian name is Oposo Wabi. Poso is my friend, my cousin. And so we make this relationship because, if I'm a little hobbled, I might need a new cane. Well, this manzanita is going to provide me with a good cane, going to provide me with a good walking stick. If I need medicine, this manzanita is going to provide berries for me, and I will have a good medicine. So there's so much that each resource does, and we come to understand it. That when you're out with your elders and they come across, a different resource, no matter which it is, they recognize it. Oh, my friend, oh, my cousin, they acknowledge it like that. We move to the elderberry, another one. I'm just using a couple of examples today. The elderberry, I've been doing some research on it. It's quite interesting. And if you've never done a little research, the word elder, it comes from a long ways back, and was used by the European to describe this bush. Well, our people here, they, in the higher elevation, Kunugib, Kuno is grandpa, one side of my grandpa line. It's in the higher elevation. A little lower down in the foothills is Ubuhiyab, means elder woman, and Hubachi is older woman. We put these terms to these resources and these sources of life because there's a certain relationship that we have come to understand, and I have questioned this. Why would we, as Native Americans who have been here for 10,000 years or more, and we use this term, we understand this bush, we make this relationship to this bush, and yet people in Europe and in Scandinavian countries, wherever, they all make the same reference. Why is that? How is that they're across the other side of the world, that we come up with the same understanding? And a very simple answer one of my elders said to me was, because the bush has been around forever and it don't die. It lives forever, and it's like, I see. Too simple. But you have to take care of it too. You do have to tend it. Here we see the beautiful red bud, just magnificent, at this point in time, how gorgeous cities and towns and people, grow this red bud simply because they want to see this look, this gorgeous look. But at this point in time, as a resource, it's no longer functional. As a resource, it's actually dying. And it is on the stages of being dead. And when it is, what creates the creek fire and any other major fire that's roaring around when it hits dry brush. Because this brush now will call that fire. It needs fire. So wherever that fire's at, it will call it. Come over here. I need you. So we need to put fire on the land and take a look at what our resources are looking like and restore them. There's a way that you burn each item, each resource. But ultimately what we're doing is looking at the return. That same bush, this is that bush that we just displayed 9 months later. It is in beautiful shape, ready for harvest. And this is the sourberry bush right next door to it. And other tall grasses have now come up in it. And when we look here at our wonderful team of volunteers, from the Middlebury students to the UC Davis students and our tribal people and community people, you'll see on the right over there, one of our young tribal ladies has come out to harvest, and that's where she harvested. She had enough for 2 or 3 baskets. This past February, we had over 100 volunteers for 4 days, and a set of elders came from our neighboring tribes, and they worked with college students and other folks all weekend, harvesting, gathering. This is what it's all about. This is what we're looking for, so that they can go home and make baskets and keep their traditions going. What am I talking about when we say that a bush is dying? This bush looks green, but when you look inside of this bush, it's not so green. It's dying. It's got dead trees and dead branches all throughout it. We get ready to burn. If we would light that burn up like you would do in a prescribed fire, then we'd torch the whole mountainside and probably burn Mariposa down, and while we're at it. So you've got to take and prep the site. We spend 2 to 3 hours more. If we're going to burn for an hour, we're going to prep for 2 to 3 hours to make sure that we're ready to go. I got my little granddaughter in there. She's in there helping, learning to work with us, learning about fire, and learning to understand what fire is all about. I have agency people from the state, natural resources, college professors. The middle one there is my nephew. He's with the as a firefighter. So we're looking at, this is nothing but fuel for a wildfire at this point. It's gnarly. There's nothing to be gathered from there. It's not going to produce any food product. So we put fire to it. Again, here in February last year when we burned, this is what it looked like. Take a look at that picture in the background. This is a big manzanita. You're going to see that manzanita, this oak tree. You're going to see this 2 or 3 times through this presentation, and you're going to not like see it. You're going to like, what happened here? So we put fire on the land. It's got to burn completely down. In February, we put 13 fires out there. And when we get done, it needs to look like a manicured ground. I shouldn't see, this thing should not be total ash. I should not see where you've burned. And this is my nephew. I've been training him for some 10 plus years. He can do everything that I do, and he could probably tell a story better than me. Fire gets pretty hot. But the one thing we don't do is we don't burn the root system. In 1 month, we have new sprouts. In 2 months, we not only have new sprouts, we have new medicine plants, we have flowers galore all around the outside. You see each burn is returning. Again, we try to, when we burn, we're burning the resource down to the root system. We're not trying to kill it. We have to clean it up as we go. Manicure it. Takes a lot of tedious time, a lot of work, but it's well worth the effort when you get done. You can see the different college students and the tribal people all coming together. This is an area that actually was being burned by Middlebury students. A great job they did. Got to take a little time for lunch. Always got to sit around and talk a little bit. Here's my wonderful group of Middlebury students that have been coming to see me for 3 or 4 years now. It's just a little idea of, the folks that came from Berkeley and from the state agencies and organizations and Forest Service, Cal Fire, and the different media folks that have came, all the different tribal folks, family, UC Davis themselves, the Rancheria folks up north, state agencies, conservation groups, Nature Conservancy, elders. We feed everybody. Yep. This is one of my young students that is working for her grad work now in Minnesota. And she flew all the way out to come and be with us. This is my old buddy and veteran. He comes up with his friends and relatives, and they set up shop and do all of our cooking for us. Smoke on the land is important. It's important because there are a lot of parasites that are from the carbon and from the fact that there's not been fire on the land. And so you got mistletoe, you have lichen, you have California dodder, you have all sorts of other parasites attacking the trees, killing the trees. Smoke helps that. After we get done with this wonderful smoke that we've been enduring now for a month or more, it will slow down the sudden death syndrome. It will slow down the mistletoe that's killing our trees. So again, this is a burn that we did in 2019. And I talked about how long the tribe's been here. This tribe has been around here I have artifacts going back 8,000 years. Over 600 people, we estimate. And I said earlier in the video that it was at least 40 acres. We've since surveyed it. We're pushing 50 acres or more now. We have like 28 to 30 sites that look just like this all on this land. Every time we burn, we find artifacts. And this one here is fire-cracked rock. or cooking stones. Or in this case, when we burned in what everybody called the meadow, it was, we came up with house pits and medicine rocks. Remember that manzanita bush I talked about and that tree? This is what it looks like when all the dead brush is gone. But this is what it's supposed to look like. And you start to see a return 5 months later. Inside of those, every time that we burn, different medicine plants come up. It's important. Medicine plants are important not only for us, they are important for the animals. Every species has a medicine. If there's something wrong with the species, first thing you need to look at is what's wrong with their medicine. And if there's no fire out there, then of course they probably don't have any medicine. What if you were sick and you didn't have a pharmacy to go to? What are you going to do? What if you're sick and you couldn't go to a hospital? What are you going to do? We have that expectation that when we burn, this is how it's going to return. New growth, new life, immediately. Again, back to here we burned the sourberry, had no idea that the tobacco existed. Had not been on the property. We have 400 acres. It's outside of the property, about a half a mile. But it was here, waiting for fire. This is what the berries should look like. But we also have invasive plants and those parasites. They actually like fire too. So we're working on them. We get more patience than they do. I said earlier on, we talked about the different species and how important, because who lives here? Who's on this land? Why is it important? What's the community? We talk about a community. Each one of these insects and plants and reptiles, animals and trees, they all depend upon each other. And ultimately, yes, when you put fire on the land, you're going to get the water back. And we go back clear into our creation stories when we have creation stories about the different tribes and measuring worm, telling dove, when the Noom, who are the Mono people, when the Noom get their fires off the land, the water will rise. One of the things when I go back here to this one, you can look back here and begin to see that where we moved next. We burned these willows, we burned all this pasture. This pasture, while tarweed is not an invasive, it is, when it takes over the field and that's all there is and doesn't allow anything else to grow, then it is invasive. So we put some fire on the land. Good smoke. This is the result of what it looked like when we got done. 1 month later, you can see the greenery around the pond beginning to change. And 2 months later, voila, there's my granddaughter out there picking flowers. Definitely looks like a meadow now, doesn't it? But we're gonna have to do it again because there's lots of seed on the ground. It likes fire too. I looked at some of my elderberry bushes and I thought this whole elderberry bush was gonna die on me. We went in there and we trimmed it, and the folks from My Maidu folks, they went in there and they got some elderberry clappers, and I got some elderberry clappers. And I thought, oh, that bush is not going to make it. But it did. Here's my granddaughters working on their clappers. Here's our end result of our clappers, ready for song. Next to where we were burning, this is what our Southbury 3-leaf sumac looked like, ready for a good harvest. And this is the harvest. Great big bunches, fill up your whole hand with one bunch. And we had several people went out to gather berries this year, and several families. Everybody came back smiling, everybody came back happy. We also have mint. So we got to gather our mint from some of our other sites. This is what the ladies, as we showed earlier, they clean their sticks, they bundle their sticks, they get them ready to make baskets. And my father passed away a while back, but he was one of the great basket makers. And this is my grandmother and my daughter. So, this is my daughter's great grandmother. And she was moving her from the first basket to the second basket. Traditional practices. But you got to have the sticks and you got to have the roots in order to get to this point in time.
Ron, that was really wonderful timing. Thank you so much for that presentation. And right now, I just want to open it up to have everyone else in the audience here to either write a question in the chat bar or feel free to unmute yourself and ask vocally as well.
I think we did good.
I'll make that unmuting possible here. I took that away from everyone, but I will put it there. Now you should be able to unmute yourself if you just want to jump in verbally or put a question in the chat. We'll cue you up. People love the before and after photos. Great. Janine, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Any question?
Yeah, sorry. Ron, fabulous to see you again.
Oh, hi.
It's been a minute. So how can people volunteer with you in the future?
Just keep in touch. One of the big things that we do have is the North Fork Mono Tribe has a Facebook.
Okay.
And so, that's where we post everything. We're working on a website, but we haven't got there yet. But the Facebook page, we keep pretty active and we let everybody know. But when we're doing something, when a new event is coming up, most of the time, as far as the burning, I'm usually in the winter and spring. So February, March, April is my safest points to burn. Depends on different elevations. And so one of the things I am working on is I have a master agreement with the Forest Service.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it took me 5 years to get it written, and we signed it 3 years ago, and it's just now being implemented. And it's a study on 9 meadows, to assess 9 meadows. And so it'll be another year or two before we can actually do something with it. So, 10 years will have come and gone. But, the main thing is that at some point in time, we're going to be out there doing things on our own.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
not through them or not through some other program. There's a lot of tribes that work with Trex programs, Nature
Right.
Conservancy, Cal Fire,
Right.
forestry, parks. I do a lot of burning with parks as well right now, and I've had Forest Service out on my projects burning, but they're doing the burning. I'm just doing the the overall watching. That's not what we want, because they never do it right. So we need to be allowed to doing it right, and that's what our agreement's going to allow us to do.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Specifically, I work closely with Redwood Valley Pomo basket weaver.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she would really benefit by learning how you do your program. So I want to hook you guys up, and I will endeavor to do that.
Fine. You still got my email?
I think so. I'll try it out. If it doesn't work, I'll find some other way of tracking you down. Thanks, Ron.
Ron, that led me perfectly into one question I had for you, which is both the Forest Service and you have your own separate ways of doing kind of controlled burns. And I was wondering, I know you talked a lot about the traditional ecological knowledge that goes into how your burns are controlled, performed, and how that promotes regeneration. And I'm curious if you know why or how the Forest Service doesn't promote regeneration, and how easy would that be to roll out kind of large scale, as we've seen after this California forest fire season. We kind of need a lot more help in that area, a lot more knowledge.
Yeah, so the Forest Service, when they burn, it is for regeneration. Only thing is it's an economical agenda. So when they burn, they want to have a product that's going to benefit them. It's not for the sustainability of the forest itself. And part of what they're doing is reducing the fuel load, which includes any kind of brush or any kind of plant, on the floor, because what they're after is a certain pine, and basically it is pine, that they don't want cedar, they don't want fir. And so they're trying to eliminate it, even if that's the belt that, the cedar is the dominant tree. The point is to get what they need to have. And that's always been the point. That's where we've been now for more than probably pretty close to 150 years. That's the concept we're living with, that whatever work they do, it's not to, keep the forest healthy as a forest. It's to make sure that the forest is an economic development for them. When you go in with that concept, well, that's what you're going to get.
We had a comment from B. Callahan. If you'd like, you can unmute yourself and make the comment, or I'm happy to read it. I'll just read it just to get you going here. This person said, "So appreciate this perspective of people in relationship to specific plants and nature. Western science has shown us how we are connected to, depend on, and can influence natural systems. But thinking about it in this relationship model is really impacting and affecting. It highlights empathy, compassion, that we're part of something larger, not capital N-O-T, the master of it." Appreciate that comment.
Yeah. They're doing a whole lot of interviews, and there's all kinds of people doing interviews on these fires right now. And we were even on German TV, but they interviewed one of the firefighters, out on the creek fire, and basically asking the same question of, how could have this been prevented? And, the guy was not going to talk a whole lot because, you don't want to get in too much trouble, but he's, his short one-liner was, we need to listen to the Western scientists. They've been telling us for years how to do things. So what else could he say? But I mean, that was really it was really good just to hear the guy say that. And he's out there, giving his life out there for fighting this fire and trying to save people's homes and doing everything he can. But he knows that, we know. I'm in a lot of collaboratives. I'm in a lot of forums, and it's just the Western scientists are there. They're bringing in their material. They don't always listen to us, but the idea is that there is the information out there, and if you at least try to practice a different concept, that change could come, but change has got to happen. To me, if you're not willing to change, then at some point in time we're going to have to start changing the decision makers themselves. And so that's coming down the road. I talked about that when we first opened up, and that was that for me, I'm working with the younger people because they're going to make change in a different way, because they're not going to go get hired on by the agency to be, in charge there. That's not going to happen right now. But the older...
So we have, sorry, sorry, Ron. We have a couple more questions in the chat. So I think John is next one, and then we'll have Christina and Jesse for our final questions if they want to go ahead and unmute themselves and ask theirs.
Great, Ron. Thank you so much. Just a quick reintroduction. I was in Jared's Prescott College PhD cohort, so we met when we were all defending our dissertations, and my work involved using birds as a guide for ecological restoration and long-term monitoring program. Yes, sir.
Good to see you.
It's good to see you too. My question, the information you talked about collecting on the bears and the bees and all of the different animals that are responding and showing up in these places. One of the things that I work on is we run an eBird portal, which is a community science program, and we're really working towards trying to be more inclusive in getting people involved in collecting community science information. And I'm wondering if that's information that you all curate somewhere and have the resources to do that.
I basically send it out to the people I'm working with, whether it's the park or the Forest Service, but for the most part, I'm the one that's curating it. Mm-hmm. We are not experts ourselves. I wish that I knew more about birds, because if you can't see them, you have to be able to understand who they are when they're talking, and it's like, I don't know who they are, I can't decipher each one, but
right.
Anyway.
Well, it sounds like it's really invaluable information, and that's something that we work on, and we really encourage anybody and everybody to collect that kind of information, and we're all experts at something, and our observations are important. I also just wanted to mention that we're working with Lomacotzi Restoration Project up here in the Klamath-Siskiyou, and we've just finished an oak woodland restoration project where we're really trying to put the kind of things that you're talking about at the forefront of this new conservation plan, or it's a strategy really for implementing a lot of fire and things like that. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Lomacotzi, but I'd love to share that with you. I'll reach out to Jared. I don't have your contact information directly, but I'll try to get that to you.
You have my mailing address, because I get your stuff all the time.
Oh, you do? You're on our listserv.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, I'll go pull it out of there. Well, thank you so much. And then hopefully that are those videos, and is this going to be available on YouTube, the video you showed? And is this, I know this is being recorded.
Yeah, give us a week. We'll put it up on YouTube. It'll also be on the sustainability speaker series page, kind of where you found this event, or I don't know if you found it there, but we all of our speakers who give us permission to film, we put up their videos about a week after.
Yeah, and that video that you showed, Ron, was great. So we'd love to share it on our list. What do you call them? Playlists and stuff. So thank you all very much for putting this on. I found this through Jared, so I'm not sure exactly where it came from, except for from my friend Jared. Well, Ron, good to see you again, and thank you all for all the great work you all are doing.
Good to see you.
We have one more question from Jesse, and if we have time, we can go to Christina's. She's offered to hold hers.
Hey, Ron. Hey.
Hey.
So I personally know that you have had agreements with the Forest Service in the past with the meadows on Forest Service lands doing meadow restoration. And at that time, when I was working with you all in 2015, they were really pushing back against fire and cutting certain size conifers and things like that. So could you explain how this new agreement that you have differs from the original agreement that you had with the Forest Service?
Well, for one, it's going to allow us to do our own burning and put fire on the land the way that we do it now. Number two, we will do our own certification of our people. So many times while you were there with us a few years back, they would bring their teams out to us and then ask us to train them. Well, we had to retrain them. And so it was like, no, or they certify. And everybody's got to be certified. Well, then when they get out to us, we have to go back over everything again. And we finally just told them, we'll do our own certification. We'll do our own training, and we'll do the fires, but you can come and join us. And so this is going to move us a little bit forward from what we had done before. Thank you. I used your pictures too, so thank you.
Yeah, those are Meredith's pictures, but
Cool.
Christina, do you want to sneak in one last question, and then we'll all be able to, or we'll all sign off. Get back to day jobs.
Yeah, I just Ron, thanks. Again, great presentation as always. And this time I realize, I know I've seen so many of your presentations over the year and you focus on different things. And this time you just kind of had one slide on water, but I think it's really great for people not familiar with burning if you could just reiterate really quickly how fire brings water back to the land.
Well, I don't know if it's real quick or not, but I'll try. And the first thing is that whatever piece of ground you're burning, whatever land you're burning, or whatever land you're restoring, you have to understand what's on the land and who's drinking first. Everybody crowds in line. So the bigger the trees, the more water they're sucking. These trees can go down 2 meters, 6-7 feet deep, 8 feet for their water. Shrubbery cannot go that. They can only go about 1 meter. And then flowers and native plants will only go down 1 foot, 2 foot to get their drink. After that, each level, as the water table drops, then you start having less and less vegetation that belongs on the meadow or in the watershed. And so your overall water table begins to go down, and you have all the wrong vegetation that's growing. And so the idea of fire is to eliminate what's already dying, what's dead, and what doesn't belong there. And then when that water table is brought back up, you're fresh. Another part of this answer here is for somebody else that asks a similar question, but we rejuvenate to bring back new life so that that greenery not only holds water in the plant, it holds water in the root system. And so that water is going to take longer for it to filter down into your drainage or into your pond or into your meadow. And thereby, instead of when it's dry and when it's brushy and when it's thick, the water runs off and then just continues to run off. So it's not sitting anywhere and we're losing that water. So that's the whole point of bringing water back up and the importance of keeping water at a higher level. Thank you.
All right, thank you again so much for your presentation. As someone who's worked throughout California forests on plant disease and forest ecology, it's really amazing to see kind of your perspective on it and your work. So thank you so much for being with us here and sharing your presentation and thoughts. And I know the Middlebury students are looking forward to the opportunity to work with you in the future on some burns, I'm sure.
Good. Good. Yeah. Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chairman Goode. Thank you so much. I'm going to give you a quick follow-up phone call just right after too.
Oh, okay. Very good.
If you have time.
Oh, I do. For you, I do.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.